Hi everyone, Sandra Vale here at Homesteading Ways, and today we're going to be canning up crushed tomatoes. First thing is, get your water bath canner started. Get all of your jars in there with plenty of hot water, and keep it just under a boil. You want the water steaming, but you don't want it boiling. Also, if you have really hard water, you may want to add a quarter cup of vinegar to your water so you don't get that white powdery stuff on the outside of the jars due to the mineral content of the water. So after you've washed and taken the stems off your tomatoes, get a pot going with some boiling water. And then the easiest way to, I have found at least, to skin your tomatoes is put a cut in it somewhere. Sometimes I do an X, sometimes you don't want to dig really far in there, but you want to slice that skin. And then you're going to put it in your boiling water for anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds. Once your 30 to 60 seconds is up, get those tomatoes out of your pot and put them in a bowl or a dish pan filled with really cold water. Add some ice to it if you need to. After they've been in here about a minute or so, you can see how easy you can slide these skins right off. So once you have the skin off, that will be when you're going to cut off any kind of blemishes or a really heavy, like here, the stem area. Go ahead and get your knife and cut that area off, and then add it to your pot with your other tomatoes. Normally, if I'm making a sauce or say diced tomatoes, I cut my tomatoes up before I put them in a pot. But with crushed tomatoes, I put them in whole, and then I just take my paring knife here and I just kind of do this a little bit, because the cooking will have them falling apart fairly quick, and so you don't need to worry about it as much. Also with the seeds, if you don't want the seeds in your crushed tomatoes, then just cut them in half and scoop that out before you put them in here. I don't mind so much the seeds when I'm doing crushed tomatoes, but I do like to take them out if I am doing a regular traditional tomato sauce. So while I'm doing this cutting up just a little bit here and there, I have the heat on the pan at medium to medium high. You want to try and get these cooking as quickly as possible, but you don't want the heat so high that they start scorching on the bottom. Now I'm making a fairly small batch because that's how many tomatoes I happen to have ripen at the time. But if you're making a big batch, besides using probably a bigger pot than this, once you get your tomatoes to this point, keep adding more in, and then as you're adding them in, you don't have to cut them up. Just the juice and the tomatoes that were in there first will be warm enough to already start breaking down the new ones that you're putting in. And if you can see, it is starting to bubble a little bit. I'm going to take my potato masher and just mash it a little bit. I have a mixture in here of Roma tomatoes and a few beefsteak. The beefsteak are a lot more watery, but I have more of the Roma than I do the beefsteak, so I think it'll even out pretty good. I'm going to let this go for about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. Alright, it's been a little over 5 minutes, and I did crush them one time, but they're really breaking apart quite easily on their own. I do want this to thicken up a little bit more, So I'm going to let it go somewhere between 5 and 10 more minutes, and then I'll show you how it looks. Alrighty, it's been about 10 additional minutes and it's thickening up. Not perfect. If I had my little stick mixer, I think I might put it in there just to chop up the last bigger chunks of the tomatoes, but I don't have it. It's packed away, and this will do just fine. So now it's time to get them in the jars. Today I'm doing pint jars because, like I said, I don't have a big batch going on, and a lot of the times I only need a pint size anyhow. But for reference, I think you normally need to do between 2.5 and 3 pounds of tomatoes for a quart size. So half of that for your pint size jars. So anyhow, to get started, I am going to be putting in my lemon juice. You want 1 tablespoon per pint, 2 tablespoons per quart. Then we'll add our tomatoes. You're going to want about a 1/2 inch headspace. I think we could use a little bit more in that other one. This is when I add my salt. You're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon for each pint. And you're going to be using pickling or canning salt. You don't want to use table salt. It makes the liquids cloudy. Now go ahead and get those air bubbles out. It's pretty liquidy, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Wipe down the rims of your jars. Don't ever forget to do that. That's super important. That's probably one of the main reasons why jars don't seal. Now get your lids on. Always get one that never wants to go just right. Ooh, that's hot. Time to get them in the canner. Okay, I have my jars in the water bath canner. Now make sure that regardless of the size jar you use, that there's at least 1 inch or more of water above the lid of your can. And also, if you want to add something to your tomatoes, like onions, garlics, and anything like that, then you need to pressure can them. You can't water bath can them. It's not safe to do it that way. So I'm going to put my lid on just a little bit here to get the boiling process started a little bit quicker. And these pint size jars are going to need to boil for 35 minutes. And you start the timing when the water starts boiling. It has to be a continuous boil. And if you're doing quarts, then it's 40 minutes. But that's if you're at 1,000 feet or less sea level. So make sure to check the exact times for your elevation. When they're all done, we'll be back. Okay, they are out of the canner. I let them sit in the canner for 5 or 10 minutes after they were done processing, just so that they could cool down a little bit that way. And then I got them out here on my dish towel, and they're going to stay that way for at least 12 hours, but I'll probably leave them out overnight and then check them tomorrow morning to make sure all the seals are good. So anyways, that's how I make my crushed tomatoes. I hope I helped you out, especially if you're a new canner. Anyone else, if you want to put in your 2 cents on how you do your tomatoes, I'd be more than happy to hear about it down in comments. Thumbs up if you like the video, that would be great, and subscribe, that would be awesome. It was nice talking to you, and you take care.